Underrated and Overlooked podcast. We hope you guys are having a great holiday week. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys for Thursday. Me and Craig got a lot to get into today. Today we're going to be talking about some college football, some high school reacting, major upsets all across the world, all across the country, and then we'll get into some NFL, breaking down some different topics there, and then we'll conclude with kind of talking about the World Cup and the chances that USA has. So, Craig, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. As you can tell, I'm proud of my Walton Raiders, shocking the country, getting that big win over Buford. We were freaking out in the office on Friday. I called it the best second round football game I've ever seen, and it was. I mean, we've seen some drama in some state championship games, but in terms of just a big matchup early in the postseason that sends shockwaves throughout the bracket, I think that one just really put Georgia on the map.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely did. And I think it shows how good and potent 7A football is, and you get to see year in, year out what's going to happen. I think it's wide open, man. I don't think there's one dominant team that you think can win it. Anybody has a chance, and I think it'll be really intriguing and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what we saw in that matchup, Justice Haynes, that's one of the best running backs to ever come through the state. He was outstanding, 170 something rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, also had some catches in that game. But the way Walton offense they operated, I've never seen that level of just aggressiveness, skill, the throws, the team effort. I thought it was just a kind of that next level, that next step that really took Class 7A to that next level. And we said that was going to be the case if they won. They did it, and now here we are.
Yes, sir. And what were some other results, man, that stood out to you on Friday? Obviously, some other upsets, some other big wins for teams. But what were some other results, from whatever classification that stood out to you?
Well, I think Colquitt County, they look really good. I'm not surprised at that. I was surprised, though, with Mill Creek's win over North Cobb. That
Yeah,
definitely sent
yeah.
a statement. I don't think North Cobb played their best game, but wow, Mill Creek came out. They out physicaled them, played well on both sides of the football, and just had a runaway blowout win. I was surprised by that. And I think you pointed it out. Mill Creek's defense is kind of underrated at this point. They have an outstanding defense. Yeah, Buford beat them earlier in the season, but they're really playing well. They can show up, and they have that similar ability, like when the game's on the line. They got guys that can step up, and we can never forget they have Caleb Downs back there also. So probably the best defensive player in the state.
Yeah, easily. He's a safety, and he totes all over the field. They use him on offense, and that was really eye opening for me. I thought that was gonna be a close game. I didn't know who to pick in that one because North Cobb has played well, even with the injury to Malachi Singleton. I mean, they've been running the football well with David Madinga. Grimstead has stepped in there and performed great, but Mill Creek just took it to him. I think they led at one point like 42-0. So that was
Yeah,
surprising on the road. It wasn't even a home game; it was on the road, and they did it from my knowledge, he did it from rushing the football. I think Clark in that game only had 95 yards passing. I think he had a rushing touchdown, and I think he had like 60 or 70 yards rushing. But
yeah.
I mean,
Cam Robinson had a big game
yeah,
running the ball for them. But yeah, North Cobb blew out a great Denmark defense in the first round. So that's what was so shocking to see Mill Creek really clamp down on them and stop a team that was kind of red hot. But then we also have to shout out what Milton's been doing. They
yes,
look really dangerous, and I think they're starting to expand offensively to where they were passing the ball really well. Now they have found a run game also. They're very dangerous, and that flexibility to do either, that's going to be so huge against Grayson this next week. They're going to have to run the ball, and then that will open up the passing game. But yeah, Grayson, I'm really impressed with them. I thought last year they were really young. They were coming off that um, great run where I think they had Garcia at quarterback. They won the state title, and then they had to replace pretty much everyone last year. They made a run to the semifinals, I believe, lost to Cons Hill. And then so this year they do have a lot more talent, but then they still have all these young guys. We talk about what that freshman linebacker that
Tyler Atkinson.
Tyler Atkinson.
Yeah,
So
it's a guy.
I'm impressed with what Grayson's doing. They've showed up in the playoffs, and then Westlake's win over Parkview. I was
Yeah,
surprised at that too. Parkview is a really dangerous team. I think R.J. Johnson, Westlake's quarterback, he's been playing well, doing what he needs to do, and then they're also able to run the ball. So it will be interested to see if Westlake can give Mill Creek a game.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I know Westlake likes to run the football a lot, so look for them to kind of run it. I think Mill Creek has a really good stout front, so be interested if they able to kind of get some momentum rushing the football and can strike kind of early in that game. We see how Mill Creek comes out. I mean, they could beat you running it and they could beat you throwing it. They have a really good special teams as well. That matchup with Grayson and Milton actually going to be my game of the week. I'm really interested to see that one. They have a guy they don't use a lot. He's a very highly recruited player, Kylan Fox for Grayson. He's a
Yeah.
tight end. They don't use him a lot. He blocks a lot, but he's a really great athlete. I'm curious to see if they're going to use him at all in this game, or it's going to be more blocking. What's going to be kind of the strategy they're going to use even next year, when coming in next year, if they're going to use him more. But very talented team, man. I mean, when I say they fly to the football, they fly to that football. They got a lot of speed. Again, another team that can beat you in a multitude of ways. I mean, that game against Hillgrove, 30-3, they had only 2 offensive touchdowns. They had a kick return for a touchdown, a safety, and they had a pick six too. So I mean, they could score in so many different ways. I think that's gonna be an intriguing matchup. And then Milton, let's give them some credit. Nobody counted this team. Nobody thought they were gonna win. You know what I'm saying, this game. And get this far and win the region. And look where they are right now. They have a chance to clinch a semifinal berth in the state playoffs. I mean, obviously it won't be easy against Grayson, but they got the athletes. They believe. And as I talk to coach, they have a slogan there. It's FIWB. Flush it, we ball. And I think that really sticks out. And I think that's a team that's going to be dangerous. So my Seamo's matchup, I think it's going to be one of the best ones in the playoffs actually this week. But another one I'm actually interested in is going to be Mays and Dutchtown.
Yep.
Mays is a resilient bunch. For them to be here and kind of how the start they had to the season. We've seen in the Douglas County game in the Grand Line Bash. I mean, that's a team that's just going to fight all the way towards the end. It doesn't matter what kind of a lead you have on them, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. They're going to fight all the way to the end, and we've seen that early in the season.
Yeah, I think if you look at Mays, obviously they have a new coach with Tony Slayton there. He actually quarterbacked there back in the day. They're going to be going up against their former coach, Niketa Battle. They've gotten off to kind of slow starts probably the last 3 seasons, but then it always seems like once they hit midseason, they really start playing well. And I think they came out this year, played really hard against Douglas County. They've had some big wins. And then I just like them in Class 5A this year. I think it's been wide open, and they are putting up a lot of points. The offense is really stepping up, and then I think they just get after it and have so many athletic playmakers, Solomon Evans at quarterback. So I think Mays will give Dutchtown a really good football game.
Yep. I definitely think so. And is any other like matchups that stood out to you actually going into this week? Obviously, we got our big game, Calvary Day versus Cedar Grove. I think it will be a good matchup, but my money's on Cedar Grove coming into this one. But I just think they have a lot of speed. Barry Jackson, Ricky Lee, Kyan Lee, Bowden Walker, who stepped into the shoes of Rashad Dominion, who's playing running back in the SEC at Arkansas. Their quarterback is elusive. He can rush the football. He makes great reads defensively. Adonijah Green, Everett Russaw, the secondary is talented. I mean, they got talent all over the place. And I would say this real quick before I throw it to Craig. Their non-region schedule was just different. I mean, they played Westlake, Bainbridge, Collins Hill, Mill Creek, Colquitt County, St. John's, who just won a state title. They played 7 teams that were still in the playoffs at this point right now. That's an incredible schedule. And then for them to be 9-2 at that point says a lot to what they built down there in Cedar Grove.
100%. Cedar Grove has done something that, I mean, I don't think any other team can say these past years. A 3A school playing up, getting big wins over Class 7A schools, being so consistent in the playoffs, and really just closing out strong runs to the state title. Thought last year they had their rematch with Carver in the state championship. They won that one. 3A, it still is Cedar Grove's classification. They've been that team every single season. I think just the standard they play, the athleticism, the expectations week in and week out, they're fearless. They'll play anyone. They don't care. They'll play 7A schools. They'll play the national powerhouses. And even all the big wins they've had, I think like Hewitt Truceville a couple years ago on ESPN, they were outmatched. You look at the sidelines for both those teams, like they're playing like a 7A school from Alabama, nationally ranked. They've got over 100 guys on the sidelines. Cedar Grove, they're about 60, 70 roster, and they go out there and get the win. It's just, that's the toughness. That's the pride that Cedar Grove plays with. And they've been one of the teams that has helped just raise the awareness around Georgia high school football, what we have going on, not just in 7A, but in some of these lower classifications too, because they can play with anyone.
I agree. And guys, we're going to move to our next topics. We're going to just kind of preview some of the big matchups this week, kind of some matches we're keeping our eyes on. I mean, I know for me, I think that Roswell-Thomas County Central game will be good. I got my eyes on that. How will Ethan Nation and Chris Elko look in that game, along with Kevin Hill and their running back, Nakai Davenport, who we last seen on TV had 3 rushing touchdowns. Curious to see how they're going to look coming into this game. I got this game on upset alert. I'm going to talk about it in a second. Gainesville and Houston County. That's my upset alert there. I'm going with Houston County. Say more about that in a second. That's another game I got my eye on. And then, 7A, as you mentioned, Westlake, Mill Creek is going to be a good one. 5A, I think that Creekside game will be interesting. I got my money on Creekside, though. I think they're playing phenomenally well. And then in 4A, can Troop continue to kind of, keep it going? Can it continue to play well? And then my other matchup is Benedictine and Stockbridge. I got that on upset alert. So that's another one I'm keeping my eye on. But what you got, Craig?
So let's talk about Houston County. Ryan Talib last week, 273 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. That's huge. And what we've been saying, you have to be able to run the ball in these playoff games. That's so key. It's like the passing game, you can have a great passing attack, but you're more comfortable in kind of what you're going to do on each drive when you have that reliable run game. So that's a big performance. 273 rushing yards for one guy last week. So Houston County, if they can do that against Gainesville, keep the ball out of Baxter Wright's hands. Gainesville has an explosive offense, but I think it will be down to the running game. I think a similar thing is going to happen with Roswell, Thomas County Central. Thomas County Central has been obviously undefeated this season, but I think if you look at Roswell, they've just gotten better and better each week. And they had that big win over Blessed Trinity, shut down their running game. I think that says a lot about the toughness of their defense. They can defend against the pass. You mentioned the guys in their secondary, and then offensively, they have that same flexibility. And I think Nakai Davenport, handing him the ball, he is a really tough downhill runner. So I think Roswell is very dangerous on that side of the bracket. I wouldn't be surprised they kind of come out and represent that side in the state title. And then on the other side, you got Woodward Academy and Hughes. We know Hughes, there's people that say they might just be the best team in the entire state, regardless of class. So until anyone plays a competitive game against them, we aren't going to count them out. It has not even been close. I think they put up 70-something points last week. Yeah, 77 against North Forsyth. And that's what we always say. Hughes wants to come out on the football field and score 70. They don't expect anything less. Prentice Air Nolan, 6 touchdown passes. They just are really that offense. They can do anything. He can throw it all over the field. He's got a great arm, and then so many different options to go to. It's ridiculous. Woodward Academy has been solid too. They're going to really need to step up though. And then I think the Marist and Rome game will be interesting. Marist is just a team that comes out and executes. They have the same formula every single year. They're always talented. They've won state titles before, and they just know kind of what they're comfortable doing each week. So I think Marist will step up to the occasion. They'll give Rome a close game.
Yeah, that one will be interesting, especially with, I think Reese Fountain's probably going to play in that game.
Yeah.
They have a really good defense. I mean, next round they're probably going to face Langston Hughes. I think that's going to be a closer matchup than people think. Not that that's not a shock to anybody or anything like that to Langston Hughes. I know that's a phenomenal group. A lot of D1 talent on that team. But I like how Rome plays defense. We've seen that in week 1 in the Corky Kell when they played Creekside. Yeah, so I'm interested in that one. My upsets, I'm keeping my eye on this Colquitt County versus North Gwinnett. Colquitt County has yet to be challenged all year. All their games have been won by double digits, so I'm curious to see if they're going to keep that up. I think North Gwinnett has a legitimate shot to challenge them. I like what they got at the running back position. And Julian Walters, who again got his most significant time this year as a junior running back. The sophomore sophomore quarterback Ryan Hall has had some growth pains and things like that, but I think he's been playing great as of late. They got some great playmakers on the outside. I think in Marik Biley, that's a player to keep an eye on this game. I like their defense. I think they can clog up the rushing attack for Colquitt with Caden McDonald, who's an Ohio State commit, also Grant Godfrey, who's a kind of fly-around linebacker that's committed to Kentucky. They got some good players, and I think that's going to be a really good game, a lot closer than what people think. And I don't know. I think I'm gonna go North Gwinnett with a kind of an upset there. That's kind of what I'm feeling. That's what I'm gonna go with. And I got Houston County over Gainesville. I think this will be a good game. They have a lot of talent. It's not a knock against Gainesville. Baxter Wright, Niam Cheeks, Darius Cannon, Travian Watson, Sky Niblett. They got talent all over there. But the key thing is going to be the penalties. You know, can they stay disciplined? Can they not convert penalties? Because I think they have too much of a talented roster in Houston County with Antoine Hill, Ryan Talib, and their playmakers and how good their defense plays. If you do that against them and you get down early and you're not playing disciplined football, that could be a problem. But I think that's going to be another interesting game. My money is on Houston County, but I think it'll be good back and forth game with both teams. Excited to see kind of the result of that one. And obviously Stockbridge Benedictine. I got Stockbridge with an upset. I think they play good all year long. They kind of flown under the radar. I like what the coach is doing there. You had him on a couple weeks ago to talk to him, and I like what he's doing with that program, and they're believing, and I think they can upset Benedictine. And then obviously the other one's Mays and Dutchtown. I think Dutchtown is a phenomenal team, but don't sleep on Mays. Mays is very competitive. I like what Coach Slayton is doing over there, and I like how they look.
Yeah, 100%. I think they'll give them a good game. I just think it's also an interesting coaching matchup. They're really familiar with the style, so that'll be a good one. But 5A, I just want to talk about Creekside. They're getting ready to play Warner Robins. That's a team that has spoiled some of their really good seasons in recent years. And I just think when you look at Creekside this season, they have just gotten so much better. In God, who was it this last week? Yeah, Travis Terrell, their running back. I mean, he had 8 carries, 176 yards, 4 touchdowns. 8 carries, 176 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's how explosive this Creekside offense has been. They beat Dalton 61-0. I think they had another guy that returned 2 punts and also had a pick 6 in that game. So they're just running track meets on everyone. I think the speed of Creekside is going to be a really tough matchup for Warner Robins, and I would not be surprised if they get past them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Creekside is another team that could be dangerous. Craig had him on his show. Make sure you go to scoreatl.com. You guys check out all our stuff. I just had a preview that went up, that preview kind of the Calvary Day versus Cedar Grove game. But yeah, I think Craig had an awesome interview with the head coach, Maurice Dixon, for Creekside. I like what he's doing with that program. They're very talented. They believe. They're hard hitting. They like having the hats to the football. Daquan White there. Defensively, they just got a lot of talent on that roster, and I love what they're doing there. And I think they can contend for a title this year. We're gonna see what happens this Warner Robins games, but I think they can contend. But any other matchups that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing about Creekside. We talk about teams wanting to run the ball. Their style of running is different, though. It's home run hits. They're just really explosive, and they have a 2-headed attack in that backfield. Travis Terrell, just one of them. I think 4A will be interesting. I want to see what Troop does against Holy Innocents, though. I think Teo Todd has been outstanding. He is probably the best playmaker in Class 4A, but Holy Innocents is such a unique team in this quarterfinals. They run the triple option. So can Troop's defense kind of prepare themselves for that look just heading into this week? And then defensively, I mean, Holy Innocents, they've produced so many turnovers. Troop has had a couple turnovers in the recent weeks. We know they lost to LaGrange in the season finale. But, I mean, they have been looking good. I just think Holy Innocents, they aren't the typical team that they've been facing. I mean, that triple option is no joke. They're going to have to be well prepared. And then I think it's just going to be an inevitable North Oconee and Cedartown matchup in the semis, but Bainbridge does kind of concern me if I'm Cedartown. They have been a really good football team. They shut out Burke County last week, 44-0. But, I mean, I think if Cedartown gets past Bainbridge, they might be the favorite in that one. And then North Oconee, they're going to play Wayne County. I think they've been unstoppable. I credit Wayne County for beating Perry last week. They're obviously doing something right, but I just think North Oconee, Cedartown, they'll advance. Mention the Troop and Holy Innocents. And then, yeah, a Stockbridge win over the defending champion Benedictine would be a big deal. They're one of the newcomers to the classification. I think their defense has been great this season, and they do have a lot of talent. They played a really tough schedule also, so we'll see. As a matter of fact, I don't even think Stockbridge has lost within Class 4A this season, so that'll be a big matchup. And I know Rusty was picking Benedictine when you asked him, but we'll see. Because when I had Stockbridge on a couple weeks ago, and I just listened to it and looked. I was like, I need to put them in the rankings right now because I think they did have a early loss or two outside of the classification. But when you looked at kind of the talent they had and then what they have done in past seasons when they're in 5A, I mean, they come into 4A with a legitimate shot to kind of disrupt this bracket.
Yeah, and real quick before we keep going, I definitely want to address the comment. First off, thank you for watching our show and actually commenting. We love having our fans in here and
Yeah, good point.
and having them kind of tuning in. So thank you, Jimmy Cash. Miss you guys. We are live on YouTube right now and live on Twitter. So miss you guys tap in right now. We love comments. Whatever comments you have that you want us to address, definitely comment below. But yes, he mentioned Carver Columbus. He said they're so underrated and overlooked in 3A. So I don't know. I could be honest. I don't know much about their program, but Craig, you've been in the game a little bit longer than me. I'm still kind of a newbie. But what do they have at that program? Who's their coach? What's going on over there at Carver Columbus?
Carver Columbus has been an absolute powerhouse. They were in 4A last year, and they were the team that beat Cedartown 22-21. Wow. I think they went for it on 2, and now they're down in 3A. So the way I see it is just, that was one of the best teams in 4A last year. I think they ended up falling to Benedictine in the state title game. So, they're returning a ton of talent. They're great at running the football. They're always fast and well prepared. And, they are underrated. I mean, sorry, I don't cover 3A. I'm more of 4A, 5A, 6A. But in terms of the rankings, we were talking about it yesterday. I mean, we all think that Carver Columbus is going to go out there and beat Oconee County this week. Oconee County is great. They have an outstanding defense. Whit Weeks, they're senior-led at the linebacking core. But, I really like Carver Columbus this year.
That's interesting. Yeah, and we've covered Oconee County. We've seen them get that 9-7 win earlier in the year against Jefferson. I like their defense, though, Oconee County. I mean, so far in the playoffs, giving up about 20 points per game. I mean, obviously, before – Friday, I'm definitely going to do some analysis more on this game. So I want to shout out to you, Jimmy Cash, for kind of making that comment. I want to see kind of what their roster has, what's been kind of going on with them this year. But we appreciate the feedback, man. That definitely means a lot, and having people kind of tune in to watch us, man. So, man, any other big games you want to talk about? Any upset picks, man, before we transition?
Well, let's look real quick. I think Rusty was mentioning yesterday, Prince Avenue Christian. I think Bailey Stockton, their receiver, I think he broke his collarbone last week, so that's going to be big. Prince Avenue, they were a favorite in that Class A Division I, but you never know. You got Raven County there now. Mount Pisgah, their big win over Darlington was really impressive. If they can pull off a win against Irwin County, I just think it's really interesting this year because you have the private schools that have had state title seasons with your Prince Avenue Christians, and then they're going up against teams like Irwin County, where no one has had more playoff wins than Irwin County in the last decade. So I think it's just in those lower classifications, it's going to be a really interesting situation where you might have the best state championship public schools going up against the best state championship private schools in the title game for the first time in years, because once they split it up, that really hasn't happened. So that's something I'm looking forward to, just seeing kind of what happens with that dynamic, because anyone that's a fan of Georgia high school football likes to see the public schools and the private schools kind of go at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that'll be interesting how they kind of rebound after that injury, to him and kind of what he's kind of meant to their team. But
yeah, Rusty said he actually scored a touchdown on the play.
Yeah, that's insane.
He took a hit, kind of bounced off it, ran it in the end zone, and then just collapsed and was like, "Oh no, my shoulder or my collarbone's definitely broken." So that's a tough one. But yeah, Prince Avenue, Aaron Philo, they are not shy with what they do. They pass the ball more than any other team in the state.
For sure. And kind of before we close out this section, we also going to be bringing in junior quarterback Jeremy Hecklinski from Walton. He'll be joining in a couple moments, but that'll be an interesting conversation before we get into our college football segment. But, any other, big surprise you see out of kind of high school football before we kind of go to break?
I mean, just the Walton win. I was just really happy to see. I never said that I thought Buford would win. It's just once I kind of looked at what Walton had been doing this season, it's like I didn't realize just how well prepared they were in terms of their game plan. When you watch that game, they were forcing Buford to call timeouts. They were so effective at just getting up to the line of scrimmage, being prepared, and kind of just playing the game faster and more confident than Buford. Buford had 17 penalties. They forced them to burn all their timeouts. It's just like they were playing at a different speed. So I think that's something that really surprised me. I knew that they had the talented players, but I thought the way they played as a team, you could really see that they've been putting the work in and really have created this new offensive identity and game plan that I think other coaches around the state, they're going to be watching that game film and trying to adapt some of that into their game style. So I just thought the way Walton outplayed Buford in that kind of category and forced them to call the timeouts, jump off sides, it was just really impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I had said it all week, and it came to fruition. I just had a funny feeling, and looking at the game, talking to Coach Bruner, I thought, they definitely had a shot, and they showed us Friday night, man, and that was one of the biggest wins, I would say, in recent memory in Georgia. I mean, that's huge to do that on the road against a highly favored team, number 5 in the nation. Everybody had them winning. I mean, shout out to Walton and Coach Bruner, what that program's doing. But we're going to take a quick break, guys. We're going to stay live on here, but we'll take a quick break. We're going to try to get Jeremy on here and kind of talk some football with him. And then we'll be back with our next 2 segments, college football and NFL. So we'll be back in just a moment. So I think he should be joining momentarily. I'm going to have to go in here because it didn't print. Okay, that's our second segment. Okay, where'd that go? All right, guys, so we're going to return. Hope that wasn't too long for you guys. But, yeah, we're going to get into our second segment to Jeremy Joins, which is actually some college football, a lot of results. Let's get into that South Carolina upset. That was huge. South Carolina upset at Tennessee 63-38. My first reaction is I was shocked when I saw that result. I didn't think they were going to put that many points on them, but this is why I didn't have them beating Georgia. I just knew they wouldn't be able to get enough stops kind of in that game to kind of win. And you really saw their defense get exposed. I mean, coming into the game, Craig, Spencer Rattler had 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in the SEC. He had 6 touchdowns and 438 yards passing. It's no knock to him. Obviously, at one point, he was a Heisman favorite. He's going to be a top draft pick, yada, yada. But we know what his story has been. I mean, for him to do that against them, obviously, I know the quarterback got hurt. Hendon Hooker is out for the season, again, torn ACL. But, I mean, that was insane. What's your reaction to it?
I think South Carolina really jumped out early on them. Didn't they put up, I think, 21 points in the first quarter? Spencer Rattler, it was basically just a South Carolina party. Everyone got involved offensively in that game. 12 different receivers caught passes, including Spencer, including him. So really the defense did get exposed. It was a close game until the end when they really blew it open. But yeah, I just think that's exactly what you said about Tennessee. You like their offense, but defensively, it's just they don't have the defense to keep themselves in the game. You have to have an elite defense. And so that was tough. It's just so hard to imagine that a couple weeks ago, Tennessee's number 1 team in the in the country. Everyone's so excited
for 4 days.
Yeah, and then wow, it's a really tough loss, and I expect. I'm interested to see what the playoff rankings look like after that, because they're going to kind of punish them for that loss to the full max, especially with now that hidden Hooker's out. So I expect them to drop pretty far. But yeah, I think it was just their defense, and Spencer Rattler, he had just a massive game.
Yeah,
438 passing yards is ridiculous. But they just got out to such a fast start, and once the offense got rolling, Tennessee never had an answer.
Yeah, they didn't, and I think that's kind of a telltale sign. I mean, they gotta going into next year work on that secondary, man, and getting that defense better. But we know what Josh Heupel can do offensively. I mean, I think they're like number one in most categories offensively in NCAA this year. So obviously, he knows what he's doing. Every program he's been at, UCF, some of the other stops that he's had, he's been at least top 10 in offensive categories. So we know he's an offensive coach, but defensively, they just got to get it together. But, I mean, nonetheless, whatever happens, it's a phenomenal year for them to be there at number one, and they still have kind of a chance to get in there in the college football playoff. Just speaks on the incredible season they had, and everything kind of culminated and went together. Jalen Hyatt, Jabari Small, they had some great players, Jalen Wright, but it's unfortunate that it kind of came down to that. But again, man, great year for them. Going to kind of suck that it's going to kind of end like that. But
what do you expect South Carolina to do against Clemson this week?
Ooh. Oh man, good question, Craig. I'm gonna be honest. I think Clemson's gonna come out there with the win. I mean, that loss to Notre Dame was, you could say, make the argument, was a little bit embarrassing, but at the same time, Notre Dame was playing some really good football, and I think Clemson is just going to be too much for South Carolina. I think they're going to have a plan for Spencer Rattler and the receivers and the weapons. And I think they're going to come out here with pride, knowing that they're potentially a 7 or 8 seed right now, and they're trying to get as a top 4 seed. They have to win out. They got to beat South Carolina. I know that's a rivalry, but this has been a rivalry for some years now, for being honest. But they got to win that game. And man, if they lose and they lose the ACC championship to North Carolina, they're done.
Yep.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
So must win.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm trying to remember, was there any other key upsets that happened this weekend? I know that one obviously sticks out like a sore thumb, but I think for the most part, everybody handled business, right? I know Michigan barely hung on to beat Illinois.
Barely. And then Ohio State, even that game was close for the most part. Weren't they trailing after the first quarter? Or,
I think so, yeah.
Midway through.
Yeah.
So, I mean, somewhat expected. I just think, not too many upsets. Even Georgia, they kind of had a close game too. There are a lot of those this week, but I think that Tennessee one was kind of shocking, just to see how many points South Carolina put up, and then just to really see it kind of derail with the no contact torn ACL to end the game. That was a tough one. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And we're going to do a deep dive next week, actually, of LSU and Georgia in the SEC championship game. That'll be actually that following Saturday, December 3rd. So that'll be really intriguing to talk about. So yeah, we'll do a deep dive next week before that game kind of kicks off in December. I think that'll be a really interesting and good game. But yeah, let's talk about Ohio State versus Michigan. I think this is going to be a great game. It's tough for Michigan. I don't think Blake Corum's going to play. He got hurt, knee injury. He's their leading rusher, 1,487 yards, 18 touchdowns on the season. I think he's going to miss this game, so that could be big for them. They didn't play well against Illinois. They did pull out the victory, but I think a loss to either team could hamper their kind of playoff implications in getting into the playoff. But, I mean, who you got in that one?
Well, I think that's the key. They need whoever loses this game, you got to keep it competitive to give yourself a chance of possibly getting back in it later. But if Michigan, if they don't have their top guy ball, I don't think they have a chance. I really don't. So that'll be tough. We'll see if he comes out. I think Blake's still listed as questionable. I didn't see the injury, but Donovan Edwards, I think he's out too. So, I mean, Michigan's run game, I mean, that was going to be the key to control the game. I still think Michigan has a great defense. Man, they're going to have to play lights out to give themselves a chance, but that's going to be tough. If they don't have their backs healthy and they aren't able to run the ball, it might be a long day.
Yeah, it could be. I think Ohio State was missing Maya Williams in their last game. I'm curious to see if he's going to come back and play. What's the status on Jackson Smith and Jigba, who, when healthy, is one of the best receivers in the country. But then you got another great receiver that they got, another top receiver in the country, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, just highlight real catch. It seems like every week. So It'd be interesting to see if they can slow down that run. If they are able to, I think they got one of the top quarterbacks in the country, C.J. Stroud. So I think that's going to be a good game. I don't know for the life of me why it's never on prime time, why it's always a noon kickoff between those two, but I don't understand that. But that'll be a good game. Curious to see how Michigan's going to come out and look. We saw last year they kind of got over the hurdle, got over the hump, finally beating Ohio State last year. But let's see kind of what happens, what Jim Harbaugh has disguised up, and if he can lean on J.J. McCarthy to kind of air the ball out too and hit those receivers.
It'll be huge. First time they're both undefeated, I think, since 2006. I mean, it's going to be a great game. Tons of energy around it. It's a rivalry. You never kind of predict what happens in those games with all the emotions. But I thought Ohio State showed that they were also able to run the ball last week. They had a big day on the ground. If they can run and pass, you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr., he's their top guy, but I think other guys have stepped up too in the passing game. So they aren't really forcing it to him anymore. They're kind of getting everyone going. And then if they're able to also have that running ability, that's what it's going to take to go up against a good defense like Michigan.
I agree. And that's the key part. You say you can't just hone in on one player. They have a bunch that can kind of air the ball out too. So I think it's going to be a good matchup, man. I'm excited. That's probably the better ones on Saturday coming up. And I think it's going to be a good one. And obviously, you got the Iron Bowl with Auburn, Alabama. As a matter of fact, how you feeling, Graham, about Auburn, Alabama? How you feel about Auburn, Alabama? Did you hear about the tweet with the reporter who said Lane Kiffin was going to step down as Ole Miss head coach and actually go to Auburn?
I did not hear that.
Yeah, but it's apparently it's not true. Apparently, Lane Kiffin called him out on it and said, "This is news to me." And I guess it wasn't because he was trying to get the scoop, but the report wasn't accurate.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin's the man. He is. I trust him. I believe him. But gosh, the Iron Bowl. There's been some epic ones, but yeah, I think Graham's a little down on his Tide this year because they just have not had that toughness defensively, and then just so many close games. They aren't really blowing anyone out. They haven't had that big signature win. Just they've been just this is going to be an interesting year for them to learn from and build from, because it has not been exciting to be an Alabama fan this year.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks too because you almost waste elite quarterback's talent when Bryce Young. Obviously, I think I've been saying it all year. I don't think these receivers have been it. I mean, name me an elite receiver on that team. Last year they had it. I mean, Jamison Williams, John Mechie. Cameron Latu's been good this year. He's probably one of the better tight ends in the country, but they just haven't had it. And I want to shout out Jahmyr Gibbs. He's had a great season coming over from Georgia Tech. Man, if they would have had that along with last year, they probably would have had a chance to definitely win the national championship game. But yeah, tough season for them. That would be tough if they would lost. I think the game's at home to Auburn. That would be a tough loss. But man, let's talk about Texas A&M. Did you hear about all the guys that are kind of transferring out? And I mean, I think I looked at the records, bro. Kevin Sumlin, I think it's like 37 games. I think he was like 20 and something. And I think Jimbo Fisher has like not a losing record, but it's like not comparable between those two. Like, what do you think about that and what's going on with that program?
I haven't seen anything on it. So there's a mass exodus, or
there's players like transferring out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I mean, well, Texas is in an interesting situation recruiting wise. I think they're trying to pull from all these different states. They always try to kind of get their own guys too. And so, I mean, we do see a lot of transfers everywhere, but I think specifically in Texas, Texas A&M, that's not surprising to me. But yeah, I got to look into it. I've not seen that.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you think because I heard coming into the season, they had the number 1 recruiting class. Why do you think we couldn't like see the results of that like on the field this year?
Yeah, that's right. They were getting into that kind of that beef with Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think recruiting ratings, the way they measure it in terms of being the best, it's just adding the stars. It's just like, oh, a 5-star, a 4-star, and then they add it all together and say it's the best. And then what people don't factor in, it's like, well, what if your class is a 30-player class? What if it's a 22? It's like what's the average. That's what's most important, and then the guys that are going to stay. So I think you can calculate how many guys you're sending offers to. You can be aggressive and offer everyone in the country or everyone in the top 200, but it's like you got to keep them there and you got to develop them. It's like if you aren't doing that, who cares if it's on paper at signing day it says it's the number one. It's like it takes a lot more than that.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely disappointing season for them. We'll see what happens. But yeah, from what I've heard, Jimbo Fisher has a lot of players that are transferring out and they're decommitting from Texas A&M. So I'll be curious to see what's next for the program, what direction they're going to move in, and how they're going to try to make sure they move in the right direction. So that'll be interesting to see
I
next year.
completely forgot. That was like during SEC Media Day, wasn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
it was. Yeah, it was huge. But our last kind of college topic before we move to NFL is going to be about UGA. I believe this is their second consecutive season going undefeated in conference play. So what do you think this allowed them to be so dominant? I think it's more of just coaching. I think he's doing a great job developing players there. They believe in what Kirby Smart is saying. They have great coordinators. They're getting great talent. They're developing the talent. They got a great fan base. Just what do you think's allowing them to kind of flourish?
I think it's the defense, the way that they are developing players. We didn't see that in the past. You'd see guys, I don't know, when I was there or before they kind of had this breakthrough run where basically they're the new Alabama. People would say, why is it that this guy goes into the NFL and then becomes great? Doing it there. I think it's completely different now. And you look, last year they have all those defensive guys go into the draft and they have not taken a step back. They have new guys coming up. So the depth's there. They're all prepared. The defense itself is just week after week they show up. And I just think that shows kind of what they're doing on that side of the ball. They're developing everyone. They have guys coming up in the pipeline. If there's an injury, it's not going to push them back. And then you look at that stretch, like something like the last 30 games, they've allowed like 10 points a game. It's just amazing. And they've won 29 of the last 30 games. So it's all about the defense for them. And then offensively, I think they have done a good job this season of keeping the passing game going. I just like what they're doing. They're controlling the ball. They aren't really forcing it. And they're going out there with toughness and confidence to win each week.
Yeah, they definitely are. And just some notable players that they lost. Jordan Davis, who plays for the Eagles, Nakobe Dean. But they've had their young players step in. Kaylee Ringo's having a phenomenal season at the cornerback slot. Malachi Starks, they did lose. I think his name is Jalen Smith earlier in the year. But they got some talented people on that team. They're playing phenomenally well. And, that line is making them, kind of go. And we've seen it year in, year out now. And obviously, the recruiting is up to par. And as Jimmy Cash mentioned, the O-line and D-line is making them so consistent. And I definitely agree with that. That's kind of making the difference.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to explain is when you have your team basically setting a school record for how many guys you sent into the NFL draft, how many first rounders you have taken that year. You set that record this past season and you're undefeated, ranked number 1 in the country. That's something we haven't seen before. It's like the defense, it's not just like a super team and then we're going to rebuild. It's like, no, they have the kind of year, just as like it's one wave after another of just absolute ballers on the defensive side. And I think, both lines of scrimmage have stepped up and kept them in every game. So 100% agree with Jimmy.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to leave it there for our college segment. I'm going to send a quick text to see if Jeremy's cool, see if he's still going to join the show today. And then we're going to get into some quick NFL topics. We're definitely going to start with the Chiefs there. As you guys all know, Craig is a Chiefs fan. And Craig, first off, how did you feel about that win and what stood out to you?
Well, I think Mahomes, obviously, another 300-yard passing game, and the Chiefs were shorthanded in the receiver department. No Juju, McCole Hardman's out. And so I just thought Travis Kelce, he stepped up, had a monster performance. And then Mahomes, in these kind of game-winning drives, we keep seeing it. He has these big plays with his legs. That's something that's underrated about what he's able to do. He's just such a incredible playmaker. Just the way he's dialed in, the situational awareness, the confidence his teammates have in having him. And if you look at the rest of the Chiefs' schedule, I mean, I'm not making any predictions here, but I think he's in that front seat or maybe the shotgun of getting league MVP this year. I think they can keep winning. And gosh, if he's on pace for a 50 touchdown season, it'd be hard to ignore that.
You know, the interesting about Mahomes is he's starting to enter. Now, people will call me crazy when I say this, but he's starting to enter kind of that LeBron category. And when I say LeBron category, I don't mean from a talent perspective. I mean from, well, in a sense, I do. I mean from like, he's so great. We're at a point we're starting to take it for granted. And I think we're starting to kind of overlook just how great he is. Like, oh, we already know what he's going to do.
100%. That is a real phenomenon in professional sports where people can't appreciate greatness. And I mean, you watched the way he got them down the field. And it's 100% right. I had no doubt they were going to win that game because of Mahomes. It's just like, oh yeah, we're totally going to go down and score and close out this win. I mean, he's just that good. And Travis Kelce's that good too. I mean, he's just an absolute beast.
Yeah, he's a future Hall of Famer. Let's say what it is. I mean, what he's doing on the field, game in, game out, year in, year out, he's a Hall of Fame caliber tight end. I mean, and what's cool is you guys are cooking up these kind of tight ends in Chiefs history. Obviously, Tony Gonzalez, and then now Travis Kelce, who's just a freaking beast. You guys are building year in, year out. So, I mean, yeah, man, Mahomes is just phenomenal. And it sucks, too, for y'all because it's like Super Bowl or bust, too. Like, even if you guys get there or if you guys lose it, like, it's a disappointment. But, I mean, to do what you guys are doing, to get the talent that you got in there, and for him to still ball 339 yards passing, 3 touchdowns in that game. I thought when they scored, they gave up way too much time on the clock for him. Yep. I mean, what was like 145, 146 with 3 timeouts, 2 timeouts. Man, if you're going to beat Mahomes, you have to, leave barely any time on the clock. And he showed you even when you do that, he could still go down and score with 11 seconds. We've seen that in the playoff game. So, I mean, he's just phenomenal, man. And you just got to be able to have the defense that can kind of, contend with him. But I think we have Jeremy on. I'm trying to see. It looked like he was trying to join. I think we're going to put NFL on pause for a quick sec and get him to join if we get the video kind of back. Let's see.
Y'all hear me?
There he is.
Y'all see me?
What's up, Jeremy?
What's going on?
Hear him?
No. Hold on one sec, Jeremy. We can't hear you. I think Najeh's getting his headphones.
Gotcha. Yeah. Goodbye to this real quick.
Cool. Okay. I can hear him. Can you hear him?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Craig, I'll give you the floor, man. You're the Walton grad. You know kind of his family a little bit more than I do, so I'll give you the first question.
All right, Jeremy. I want to talk about that Buford game. The way you guys came out, no doubt, on these 4th down calls, the aggressive play style. I mean, that was really your moment, I feel like, where Coach Bruner kind of just said, we're going to go for it. We're going to be aggressive. Jeremy Hecklinski's our money man.
Me and Coach Bruner have a good relationship. I played a lot as a sophomore and a freshman. And even as a freshman, he trusted me to go in there and make. Like we just gotten to that point where it's like he knows I'm going to make the play, and he's not hesitant to call.
And then, gosh, there were so many plays in that game where I just thought you made some incredible throws just to see kind of the connection you have with guys like Hunter Teal and then Aiden Jackson on the sidelines. And then Brandon Adams said after the game, he said, there's not a single part of this field that Hecklinski did not throw to. So just what was that like, just kind of having the vision of just all your different guys and being that confident that you're going to place it where you need to?
Connection with all of my receivers. I mean, I've grown up playing 10 Wyatt, number 9 Hunter Teal. I mean, we won the 8th grade state championship. We've been playing for a long time. I actually grew up playing like FBU All-Stars and GHSA All-Stars throughout middle school, even though and then Cameron Lloyd, as you know, came over here, but we played 7-on-7 together. So there's just a lot of chemistry on the field. A lot of routes at practice and over the off season, we were all together stretching the field, making sure we could hit all those routes. So it's a product of these last couple months.
And then what has separated kind of this year's offense from maybe last year, your sophomore season? I mean, how have you guys just kind of taken it to that next level this year?
Well, we have last year we had a lot of weapons, but this year we have weapons on every single position on the field that, I'm not, confident to throw to. And we also have last year, but we have a different kind of running back. We have a power back. 4th and 1, I'm gonna hand it off to him. He's nervous. He's not gonna get it.
Yeah, and then just how excited were you to see your defense get after it, lay some big hits this past week, and that's just keep you guys kind of in control of the game, in striking distance, and then just once you guys had that lead, to see them kind of close it out, make some big plays. I think, who was it, number 18 for you guys in the secondary?
Yeah.
He had some big pass breakups at the end. I mean, how pumped were you for your defense in that big game?
No, I was definitely excited. One of my main, because we have a young defense, so we don't have a lot of older guys on that defense that are, Mill Creek. We gave up a bunch of points, but as the season progressed, we started to have more big stops, and they've grown so much as like a family on that defensive side that we go out there and make plays.
And then I got a question, man. I was telling Craig, I already kind of knew you were special week 1 when I seen you in person. Obviously, that was a loss to Mill Creek, but it was a thriller. It was 44-41. You went down, put your team up. I mean, the throws you were making, I was right on the sideline. The throws you were making just kind of stood out to me. You had 426 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Just what were some things you did in the offseason just to kind of just hone in, sharpen your game, and just kind of continuing to make those consistent throws that your coach kind of alluded to that you need to make in that Buford game?
Going into this season, I knew it was going to be my team. Last season, I split, reps with Zach Southern, but this year I was just more confident. There's no me put this other kid in. No, it's my team. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make the plays. In this offseason, we're working at least 30 minutes after our morning workouts, just throwing the ball. We're tight and we're ready for this season.
Right. And walk me through, how was that environment in Buford? I mean, how cool was it? First, before the environment question, let's talk about that third down throw. I mean, it was 3rd and 8. They call pressure on you. You deliver the throw, you deliver the dot to Hunter Till. He makes the big play, gets him down. I thought when I seen that play, oh yeah, this is money. They're in this game, they're in trouble. That's that when I seen that throw and him get all the way down to the red zone, I said Buford's in trouble. And just walk me through how that play was for you, making the throw, delivering it right to Hunter Till, and him going all the way down to the red zone.
That was a play we practiced, and we knew we were going to have to come up with a couple of things, to get him off guard. I just wanted to make when I put him in that position, and I knew once I saw him come open, I was going to take. He was playing a little sick that game, and he was playing both sides of the ball, so he got hawked, which is really good.
Yeah, and then another play that stood out, that 4th and 6, okay? It's 28-21. You guys get the onside kick. I thought it was huge because, or it might have been later in the game. It might have been at 35. I can't remember the score at the point, but I know it was a critical play because you guys went up 2 scores when you threw it to Aiden Jackson. I mean, again, a nice pinpoint accurate throw. What was going through your mind when he caught it and you seen him go house it all the way for a touchdown?
That play we've been running all night, and I hit wide a couple times on it, and I hit Hunter a couple times on it. So when he called it, and they were in a 2 match, and they were dropping the corner and safety, and I was it's going to be there all the way. Get there quick enough. And he got there and made a play with it, and he's a special kid when you get the ball in his hands.
Definitely. And what was that environment like? I mean, post-game, winning that game, taking kind of the air out the crowd. Like I said, nobody had you guys winning this game, but a select few people. I was one of them. What was that environment like, being able to beat one of the top teams on the road in the country?
Or walking in there, as the underdog, I love being the underdog. I love going in there to big stadiums where the fans are loud. I just love it gets me pumped up. But, going throughout that game, it started to get loud with it, started getting quieter and quieter, and that's when you could hear our fans, start cheering louder. And then after the game, the field, and all of our fans are on there. It was a surreal moment. I mean, we knew we were going to win the game. It was just all those people out there with us.
Right. And my last question before I throw it back to Craig to ask a couple more. How special, Jeremy, you think can this team be? I mean, your coach outlines 3 goals from what he told me. He said to win the opener, you didn't win the opener, win the region title, you didn't do that, and to win the closer, win the state title. But you practice with this group every day. You see them. You throwing the ball to all those elite playmakers that you got. How special, how far you think this team can go?
I'm in that state championship, but other people are going to be from the outside. I know they got lucky against Buford, but over these last since Mill Creek to Buford, the bond that our guys the ball is it's impeccable. Well, no one's going to stop us just because we have so much trust in our coaches that we can go into any game and we're going to win. Like before that Buford game, there was no doubt in our mind to lose that game. We were winning that game no matter what.
Yeah, and that had to have been just a huge confidence boost and kind of bonding moment for your offensive line to battle the way they did. Just talk about what they were able to do against Buford and just play 4 quarters of just really tough football.
Buford D-line was pretty good. I heard that. I think they have 2 4-stars or whatever that is.
Yep.
It's on buying me time, getting me time to throw the ball. One of our actually broke his collar on the first drive of the game, and so we had to take one of our D linemen. He just did phenomenal, and I'm so proud of the O-line of how they played. And I mean, I got sacked. It was a blitz. I didn't get touched the rest of the night, and I can't complain about that.
I want to talk about that kind of off-platform throw. I mean, like it was a key critical part of the game. I think it was 14-6. I mean, the snap is high. You have enough awareness to get the snap. Most players you see, they're just going to fall on it. It's going to be a disaster. No, you pick it up, you throw it. It reminds me kind of a little bit of Patrick Mahomes kind of play. And you throw it right on time. Tell Makari Buford he goes in for the touchdown. Just what allowed you to kind of have that element of your game? Is it something that's just natural for you, or did you just kind of add it?
It's here, but I've been doing a lot of that stuff since like middle school and stuff. And it's just been getting more comfortable with it. I can just throw at different arm angles and off platform, and I don't know, it brings a lot to the table for me.
Yeah, I told Najeh it really kind of late in that game, once you guys got control, it reminded me of watching you in a 7-on-7. You're kind of looking at the sideline to get the play call or whatever. You guys are adjusting to what Buford's showing. And then it was right before the pass to Aiden Jackson. I think it was just like a early snap, and you weren't even looking. You just grabbed it with one hand, threw it away. So I just think watching you play, it's like it looks like you are so comfortable out there, just like a 7-on-7. It's like clearly it's just all these repetitions you've done throughout the years at the quarterback position that has really made you comfortable out there. So, I mean, is that how you feel? You've just been doing it so long.
Yeah, I feel like me playing as a freshman, getting a lot as a sophomore, definitely, don't get a lot of play in their freshman and sophomore years. I'm in junior year, and they're kind of like start freshman and sophomore. I can see, comfortable. I mean, like not worried about anything. Game.
I want to ask you this too, Jeremy. Explain to me how important it is to play 7-on-7, young, either 8th grade, 9th grade, or even during like your high school summers. How important is that just from a bonding perspective, and just, obviously bonding with players you're going to be playing with 11-on-11 when the season starts, and then just going through again those repeated repetitions and starting working on your arm.
It's a lot on timing. It's timing because you gotta. I mean, you can't roll out of the pocket. There's a lot of, rules to the game, but it works a lot on timing. Works a lot on like precision throws. I met one of our receivers out of 7, Cameron Lloyd, 21. So 2 years later, now here we are, playing in the quarterfinals against Walton this week.
And what kind of stands out to you? I'm sure you've watched film, but what stands out to you on film when looking at kind of that Carrollton defense? And what are some things you think you guys need to do offensively to kind of come out here and be successful as you were against a top-notch defense in Buford against?
They have a pretty aggressive defensive back. I think we just need to go out there and execute and just player we've been playing these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and then Coach Bruner said you guys, I think on Saturday, had like an 8 a.m. meetup after the game. He said you guys were going to do a little yoga. How was that? Just Saturday morning after that wild night, just waking up early once again, just getting the team back together.
Get to bed till 2:30 that night, and then I go home. I'm sleeping for like 4, waking up, and I'm going to see Coach Bruner. He's all happy and yelling at 8 a.m. with his coffee. Just excited. There's just like a sense in that room that we can beat anybody because we just pulled off that win. We can do whatever we can. We can win the state championship.
Certainly. And was there kind of just a different feeling in the locker room kind of once the playoffs started? I mean, you guys have played so many big games this year, but I mean, really once it's like, now it matters. We don't want this to be our last game. I mean, have you kind of felt that just throughout the locker room, you guys kind of stepping up and really focusing?
Yeah, it's been more of a, since the urgency in the locker, people are more intent and locked in. I mean, I want to say our last four games of the season weren't, but they weren't playing, Buford. So when we got these playoffs, we started intent in what we were doing.
Yeah, they've got.
And I guess for me, kind of my final question too, just how important, Jeremy, do you think it is playing kind of those non-region games against those kind of critical components and those critical teams, kind of just, playing like a Mill Creek, playing a North Cobb, teams that are going to be powerhouse, going to be there year in, year out, contending for titles. How important is it to play them in the regions play and a kind of non-region play as well?
The high-level teams in the non-region play as well as the region play, but in the non, it affects you getting into the playoffs, but it is gonna it's gonna set you up to get better to compete with these teams to go for the state championship. And for the region play, I feel like teams in the region, you're just gonna go 5-0 in your region, get to the playoffs, play really good because you haven't had any competition.
True. And my last question before I throw it to Craig, for you. I know some players like to talk about, some players don't, but just how was the kind of recruiting been, since you started the season, kind of coming in your junior year, and kind of how's it been up to this point?
Well, I picked up some offers before the season, and I just picked up Wake Forest. Right now, I just kind of focus on this state championship run.
And then after the win, I mean, obviously you guys were really excited. You guys felt confident, but you look across the sideline, you kind of see Buford, they're stunned. Oh, man, they aren't used to getting knocked out of the playoffs. I mean, did any of their players come over, kind of congratulate you for just that win performance?
Yeah, I talked to Kate, and I've known them for a long time. I played All-Star games with Justice Haynes when he was at B. I played 7-on-7 with KJ, so I was like, you guys got a bright future ahead of you. Obviously, Justin's going to Alabama, and he's got a whole nother year. But they were sad, but do about that.
Yeah, and then last question, just in terms of the Walton offense, what you're bringing to the table. We mentioned all the guys that are getting involved. Wyatt's come up huge. Aiden, Cameron, Hunter, Vinesbaugh now, Makari Butterford. I mean, do you guys feel like there's still areas to improve offensively? I mean, is that kind of the attitude each time you guys show up?
Obviously, we can improve on stuff like routes and speed of routes and alignment and stuff. I've got so much confidence in these guys, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel like anybody in the receiver core or stop our run game. I feel like we're the most balanced offense in the state of Georgia.
Completely agree.
No, definitely could beat you running it, definitely could beat you throwing it. And like I told Craig all week, I know you had to look at the matchup a little bit more, but I had full confidence in y'all. I do think you're a stud, Jeremy. I think you're a star at a QB position. I think you're next level, and I think you can do some special things on the next level too. So we want to thank you, man, for coming on our show. It was definitely a blast, man. Good luck Friday, and we look forward to dinner tomorrow with you.
For sure. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
sir.
Awesome.
So that was Jeremy Hecklinski, guys. Again, we'll definitely have that. If you're watching this live, it'll be up right after we get done recording our live show. But that was a lot of fun. Again, just to kind of quick recap, Walton knocked off a Buford team that was nationally ranked, I think number 5 in the country, well on the road. was up 2 scores multiple times in that game and were able to kind of come out with a victory. They played excellent. They played well, and you really saw the difference there. But that's all we got for him. But we're going to jump real quick back into kind of our NFL section. We left off on the Chiefs. I kind of want to look ahead. I want to talk about the Jets and the Pats. Man, I mean, 2 total yards in the second half. And then your quarterback comes out and says, do you think you let your defense down? He says no. I mean, that was just, we know the guy's smart. He went to BYU. Obviously, the guy's smart. But, I mean, no sense of accountability, bro. That is what separates men from boys. I mean, you didn't do anything in the second half. I mean, you're missing wide open receivers. That was just terrible. I mean, and Robert Salah is not committal on who's going to be the quarterback next week against I forget who they're playing, but he's not committal on who they're starting quarterback is going to be.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you want to see in professional football. No. I mean, you're supposed to be pro football to come out like that. I think it says 2 things. One, momentum is real. Once things aren't going your way, I mean, things can get really ugly. I think that's what happened. But then you said it. It has always frustrated me. It's not rocket science to give a good post-game press conference. Take accountability, assure the fans that you guys are working to get better, and then focus on the next game. It's like any other mindset isn't going to work out. So it's just like, why not do that? So when guys don't do that, make excuses, kind of hide or avoid the issues, I think that is a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if he would have just said, hey, man, this is my fault. I played like crap. I'm going to work on this week getting better and playing better. I think it would have made a difference, man. And, it's unfortunate, he kind of took that stance. But, I was one of the ones that said I thought he was going to take a next step this season, but he didn't play well. He's 9 for 22 for, I think it was 80-something yards. You got to perform better than that. And I thought their defense played well enough for the win. They have a win now roster. I mean, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, C.J. Mosley, offensively, Garrett Wilson. I mean, they just need the quarterback to perform. And Breece Hall was playing well, the rookie, before he got hurt. So they got, people on that team that can be dangerous and be good. But, I mean, you just can't have that mindset as a quarterback.
Yeah, so you said 2 yards the entire second half?
2 total
So, I mean,
yards.
That's not showing up on first down, second down. You aren't converting the thirds. It's like, that's just, as I said, you don't expect that in pro football.
No.
You got to expect better. And then to not come out and say it, that is concerning.
Yeah, and it's a bad look. But the Pats get the win.
Yep.
They are currently the 6th seed. I think the Jets are – I'm trying to think of the
They were at the
bracket.
top, I thought.
Yeah, but I know they lost to them, so they moved down. I don't think the Jets are in it. No. Actually, Cincinnati supplanted the Jets because we beat them head-to-head this year. So we're in the 7th. I think the Pats are at 6th. I think the Bills are in the 5th spot. Yeah, that's what it is. So, I mean, it's an interesting playoff picture. I want to react real quick to our Bengals victory against the Steelers. For me, I thought it was a good win. Our defense didn't play well in the first half, but they did great in the second half. They only allowed 10 points, really 3 points, because the last one was a garbage kind of touchdown for them. But I thought they locked up, which they've done all year for the most part, playing some great, stellar second half defense. I love that we have Joe Burrow. Again, that guy's a stud. He's a star. He should be in the upper echelon of the quarterbacks. I put him in the same conversation. Not saying he's better, but if I'm going to take quarterbacks, it's going to be either him, Mahomes, or Allen, and I put him right there. For me personally, I might be a little biased because I'm a Bengals fan, but I'm going to take Burrow respectfully. But he's just different. The accuracy he had on those passes against them, and what were people saying kind of in the media? Oh, he wouldn't be able to make the throws, or he would be a shell of himself without Chase. I mean, he's 2-1 without Chase. So obviously he can win without him. T. Higgins has stepped up big, 9 catches, 148 yards. Tyler Boyd had some key critical catches on that drive. So I thought all that was huge. We really saw the difference. We really saw the difference in what he was doing. And I really love him as having a QB. Again, we don't run the football enough. That's my only really critique with my team. But other than that, offensive line played great. First half, no sacks. Second half, they started to tee off on us because we were 2 pass happy. We had a lead. Again, just mix up some run in there. That's my only thing. Just mix up some run. Keep the defense honest. And that last drive where we scored, we went up 34-23. We mixed some runs in there and then got the kind of offense more comfortable. And he was able to make the throws. And the defense wasn't getting as much pressure. But I thought Lyle Collins did good. Jonah Williams did good. Pittsburgh has a really good, strong defensive front. Their weakness is their secondary. And I thought our receivers without Chase did a marvelous job. We'll see if Joe makes the plays next week. He obviously has a concussion. But Samaje Perine, 3 receiving touchdowns. He was great for us all night long. And then Trent Irwin, a guy that's been on the practice squad, who I think they've elevated now to the roster. They released Mike Thomas. I thought that was big too. He definitely should, be on the active roster. He can add a lot more to our team. So again, a great win. We'll see kind of what happens in the second half. Our schedule is a gauntlet. 6 of the 7 teams we play remaining have winning records or are 500 or better. So we start with Tennessee, then the Chiefs, then the Browns. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks, how well we're able to play.
Yep, I watched the end of that one. It's always good to beat the Steelers. And then, I thought Joe Burrow was great on that last drive. You mentioned the concussion for Mixon. That's going to be interesting. Do you think he'll be out this next week too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm almost in a sense I don't even want him to play, especially with knowing how concussions are. I mean, just take the time you need. I think we have a good enough kind of player in Samaje P. Ryan and Travion Williamson to kind of step up. So,
I saw them getting some good runs late. Yeah, I was just really impressed. And then that catch by Tyler Boyd, I thought that was a really big play for him to be making. It's like you come down, you finish this drive off, the game's going to be over. The players stepped up, made the plays, and did what they needed to do. So Bengals had a kind of slow start to the season, disappointing. You've been talking about how they need to run the ball more, but that was just a big win for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't like the Steelers. That's one team I very dislike. If you want to know why, go back and look at the 2015 playoff. You'll know why I don't like the Steelers. And go look at the play at the end of the game when Tyler Boyd clearly has the ball, but George Pickens clearly hits him in the head, with no regard. I mean, it was really no point. The game was over. That's why I don't like the Steelers. I never will. I never have. I've hated them ever since 2015. I have to let that be known. But we're going to keep it going. Craig has some great stories on our next topic. The Rams, they're 3-7 right now. I think, did you play with Matthew Stafford?
Yes. So it's very interesting. When I got to UGA in 2008, I walked on kind of the second semester. So before the spring. So it was January. They were coming off a big season where they destroyed Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl. And so my first ever class was a nutrition class. And I go in there, and this is before I even showed up to the walk-on tryouts, and Stafford was in there. I'm like, no way. He's like right there. And so I go out, and so kind of one of the first like workouts we ever did, it was like a 7-on-7. It's just the quarterbacks and the receivers out there. And it's like, I had been working out, I'd been training and stuff, but I had never had a quarterback with an arm like Matthew Stafford throw me a football. And so there was this one play where I was on the outside. I was basically just running a clear route. And I mean, that's one thing I kind of always tell myself to do is just run the route as fast as you can, no matter what. Don't loaf. And so I'm like 50 yards downfield at this point, and I kind of slow down a little bit. And then I turn around and I'm like, no way. He was throwing to me. I was so far down. I thought the play was over. And so I ended up catching up to it and then try to make a catch on it at the end, and I dropped it. And so I was obviously really mad, picked it up, kind of went back over there. And in my mind, I was thinking I would have caught the ball if I didn't take it off at like the 50-yard line. But then Stafford, he comes up to me afterwards and he says, you got to run on your toes at the end. He's like, if you run on your toes, your head's going to be still. You'll be able to track the ball better. So it's like he had that ability to be that coachable to a guy didn't even know. And he kind of saw what happened. And it's like that advice right there was so game changing, because you're trying to adjust to the ball at the end. You're trying to track it. But then if you're consciously thinking, stay light on your toes, your head's not going to move as much, and you are able to kind of track the ball, locate it down, and then watch it come into your hands. So I thought that was just huge, just to have a guy like that treat everyone on the team equally, whether you're a walk-on, whether you're AJ Green, Muhammad Massaquoi, it didn't matter. He was always trying to get guys better. And then after those 7-on-7s, he would always have a competition. He later had it with Zach Mettenberger, who also had a monster arm. But he would go to the 50-yard line, Najeh, and he would aim for the crossbar on the field goal. And I'm not kidding. It would take him maybe 2 or 3 throws to hit it every time. It was insane. And so, yeah, that was kind of like the first ever experience with him. He hit me like 70 yards downfield on like the craziest throw ever. ended up dropping it. He gives me advice that was just so helpful. It would be helpful to any receiver listening. Be on your toes, keep your head still, even when you're adjusting, and you'll be able to haul in a lot of those deep balls, because it is tough when you're trying to track down a ball like that. And then just to see him just kind of walk up afterwards and be like, oh, I'm going to hit the crossbar, and then just to hear it boom, and then see him just kind of walk off calmly. I'm like, this guy's got an arm. So I was just really happy to see him win the Super Bowl last year. That was exciting. I know it was tough because it was against the Bengals, and I honestly, I like Joe Burrow and the Bengals so much. I was just like, you know what, I don't even know who I want to pick, but when Stafford got it, I was happy for him.
No, definitely. I mean, you have more of a kind of a personal connection with them, being that you played with them at UGA. So, I mean, it was well deserved, well won. I mean, they had a superior roster. For us to even kind of be in that game, I think just says a lot to the grit and will we had, and what we had at our skill positions and our quarterback position. Because, I mean, they played great. That last drive with him and Cooper Kupp said a lot. I mean, OBJ goes down in the game, but they're still able to kind of make the throws he needed to make. I mean, I think he really separated himself. I think they're missing the kind of the effects of having OBJ. I mean, they had a great interior line. I mean, Aaron Donald, who's a future Hall of Famer, Von Miller, they had Leonard Floyd. They had so many players on that team. And I think we definitely would have won it if we could have blocked Aaron Donald for just a second longer. That was a check that Burrow had to Jamar Chase, who he actually fell down on the play. That would have been game, set, match. Burrow goes down as a legend. I mean, easily. So, I mean, again, a great game. I think we'll definitely be back. I think it's more of a question of when, not if, we'll win the Super Bowl with Burrow. But we just have to make sure our coaching is up to par, and we'll be fine. But no, incredible story. Right now they're struggling. I think it's just because they sold out for a Super Bowl. They went and got so many pieces last year just to kind of supplement and make sure. I think they went all in for it. I mean, obviously they were rewarded and got a Super Bowl. But I think you're just seeing the ramifications for that. And now they're going to have to figure out, I think, receiver position, especially what they're going to do, because Cooper Kupp is on IR. I think he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. Stafford has another concussion, which is not good. I think it's his second in 3 or 4 weeks. So he's probably going to be out next game. So they just have a lot of questions. They got more questions right now than they got answers.
Yeah, and I think their season pretty much ended with that Tampa Bay loss. That was a really bad one. Yeah. It was a great win, much needed for Tampa Bay, but you could tell after that it was like, yeah, this is going to be a tough season. And I mean, you just look at the stats. It's really hard to repeat in the NFL, especially when, as you said, they kind of went all in that season. Yeah. But what do you think about OBJ? Do you think he's going to try to hop on the Cowboys? Is that what we're hearing?
You know what? I wouldn't be shocked because for him, think about what it means to his career. Okay, he already played with Stafford, got him a ring. He's still kind of a sought-after free agent. Would you rather play with him, or would you rather play Daniel Jones, who've kind of already played with, and you kind of know how that went?
Yeah, well, I think didn't Jerry Jones come out and say it yesterday, or he's been talking?
I think he's been talking about it. Like they're trying to get him. But I mean, okay, you got so think about how lethal the Cowboys would be if they get OBJ. So again, I still don't think Dak's the guy, but you still have the most of the weapons you need to win the title. Your defense is elite. We see what the defense did. Obviously, they had a kind of a letdown game against the Packers, but the defense is elite. Look what they just did to the Vikings. That's a potent offense.
Won by 37.
Yeah, 40-3. I mean, you should have Jefferson, Hockenson, Thielen, and Cook. That's insane. So you had OBJ, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, those two running backs who Pollard really is a starting running back, I think, any other place he goes to for the most part. And Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, they got nothing but playmakers on that side of the ball. The only thing with the Cowboys is every year it's just like when they go to the playoffs, they just fold like a lawn chair. I mean, I just don't – that part I don't understand. But in most games, they'll be favored. The only team I think gives them matchup nightmares is San Fran because they can defend, they can tackle, they got elite safeties, elite corners. They have good linebackers, a great defensive front. They got pass rushers that can get after you. Did you see the weapons they had on the offense last night? Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. That one would not be a good matchup, I think, for the Cowboys. I think that one would be kind of rough. But, I mean, if they got OBJ, I mean, they in that Super Bowl conversation.
Yeah, I think San Francisco would be a dangerous one. I didn't realize how tough of a matchup the Cowboys would be against the Vikings kind of until it unfolded, but they build an early lead. And then the strength of that Cowboys defense is clearly their pass rush.
Yes.
Clearly their secondary. Yes. And so when you aren't in the game with Dallas, and once they build a lead and you're trying to pass your way back into it, you're going to get teed off on. And so, I mean, that's what happened. You don't see margins like that too often, especially a team like Minnesota coming in with a really good record. So I just thought that was a big one. It will be interesting to see if it goes there. Cowboys definitely a team to keep watching.
For sure. And they got a big Thanksgiving game actually coming up on Thursday against the Giants. So we're going to see how they're looking now. But I think that's such a game the Giants need to try to win. They're 7-3. It's not going to, make or break their season, but you want to get that division win. They still got matchups against Washington, who the Commanders are looking really good right now at 6-5, and they still got to play the Eagles twice. So you definitely want to pick up another win against, or you definitely want to pick up the first win of the season against the Cowboys if you can, if you're the Giants. But it's got to be done on the road. So we'll see kind of what happens in that one. But it'll be very entertaining and very good. But our last kind of topic, man, World Cup is kicked off. USA, I thought had a great start to that game. They were up 1-0, but I thought second half, the momentum was pending kind of for the Wales. I thought, they were so in tune and they were getting so many chances. They were getting corner kicks. They were controlling the possession. They were getting it into the box. They were, just capitalizing them. Of course, you don't want to score on a pin, but I thought USA had way too many cards. They had 4 yellow cards in that game. That stuff stands out to me. And that's a game you kind of want to get the upper hand on because, again, you have, I think, Iran, Wales, them, and then England. So you got England Friday. England's not going to be an easy game. I mean, they got all that talent on that side of the ball. So, I mean, what do you think about USA so far and what their chances are?
I think tying isn't the worst thing that can happen. Wales is a good team. There have been some major upsets, though. I just think what's so weird about this World Cup is not having it on in the summer. It's going on at the same time as football. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to get both at once, but it will be interesting to see. I mean, I always like seeing what country's going to come out in it. And I just don't think a tie is necessarily the worst thing that can happen. Wales is a really good team.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think USA got some good talent. Obviously, they named the youngest captain in their history. I think Tyler Williams at 23 years old. I like Pulisic. He plays for Chelsea FC. He's a very good player for them at the kind of striker position. So I can't wait to see kind of that result. I think we'll be able to see it before we have to come in on Friday. So it's at 2. I don't think we have to be in until about 5 or 6 Friday. So I'm going to definitely try to watch that game and kind of analyze it and see what happens. And then Saudi Arabia actually upset Argentina, a big loss for them, 2-1 early this morning, 5 a.m. It's the same thing always, though, with Argentina. They always get in these spots. I mean, like every year World Cup, or they're playing in kind of an I'm trying to think of the other soccer competition that's big. I think the South America Cup. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, the audience, but it seems like they always get in these games and they lose to these teams that they're better than. I don't understand that. And it's really Messi's last chance to win a World Cup title. He's won everything in his illustrious career. He's won Ballon d'Or. He's won Copa del Rey. He's won all the major titles. Same thing with Ronaldo. So we'll see if they're able to kind of right the ship and win the next game. But a big and significant loss.
Yeah, they're still selling a lot of jerseys, but that was a tough one. Yeah. I'm interested to see how Brazil comes out. I think obviously they're always competitive in it, but their country I'm always going to be watching. Things are kind of crazy there right now, so I think that would be a big. This is a big moment for Brazil for sure. They want to come out, kind of represent. And it has been interesting just to see Argentina, probably their biggest rival, go down early. That's going to kind of put them on notice.
I agree. And that's all we got for today, guys. Appreciate Jimmy Cash. Appreciate some of the live people that actually joined the show today. It was very exciting. I think we got up to 4 people on our live from YouTube. So that was super cool. We thank everybody. Again, we'll be back next Tuesday to break down some more topics. We'll be in the semifinal run at that point for the GHSA playoffs. And then we'll break down obviously some college football, some bowl games, and some major championship games happening, and obviously some NFL as we get deeper and deeper and closer to postseason, man. So any closing thoughts for you, Craig?
Yeah, check these playoff rankings tonight. One last release before things obviously really are going to narrow down to see who's going to be playing in this playoff. But I think it'll be interesting to see who's sitting on that bubble going into this week, especially if one of these teams like Ohio State or Michigan comes out, gets a big win. Will those teams still be in it? Who's going to be out of it? I think I'm going to be just focused on that tonight. I'm really interested to see how far Tennessee drops as well.
Yeah, same. And guys, make sure you go to scoreatl.com. All of our content on there. We have rankings, articles, results, brackets. We have everything on there. We have Craig's show. GHSA Drive for the State title show. We have my show, Keeping It with Najeh Wilkins. We'll hopefully have our show up there soon, Underrated and Overlooked co-hosted podcast on there pretty soon too. But we got so much stuff we're doing at Score Atlanta. I think we're going to keep growing and keep getting better. We got a lot of things in the works. I want to shout out our TikTok channel. You guys went crazy. We got 26,000 views from Jeremy Hecklinski's throw to 100-tail on that third down. Justice Hayes' run got about 10K views. So definitely go to our TikTok, Score Atlanta, and go to our Instagram, Score_Atlanta. And then go to Score Atlanta on Twitter as well. And y'all keep running it up. We appreciate all the support. Again, shout out to Jimmy Cash for tuning in for this long.
Yeah, one more thing, Jimmy. I forgot Pierre Coffey. He's the first-year head coach at Carver. I tried to get him on, I think, last week. Something didn't happen. So that's why it wasn't fresh on my mind. I kind of just went through the schedule and some of the stats. But, yeah, Pierre Coffey's a first-year head coach at Carver, Columbus right now. And that'd be really special for him.
For sure. And, make sure you guys go to scoreat.com, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.